Talk Like TED, The 9 Public Speaking Secrets of the World's Top Minds, by Carmine Gallo. Introduction. Imagine a man walking onto a stage. The room is filled with 1,000 of the world's brightest minds, CEOs, scientists, artists. He's a civil rights attorney, and he's there to talk about injustice. He doesn't have flashy slides. No props. No gimmicks. For 18 minutes, he just speaks. He tells a story about his grandmother, a woman whose parents were born into slavery. He shares her simple, powerful words to him as a child. He speaks of the poor, the forgotten, and the wrongly condemned. And when he finishes, something remarkable happens. The entire audience rises to its feet. The applause isn't just polite, it's a roar. It goes on, becoming the longest standing ovation in the entire history of the TED conference. In those 18 minutes, the audience was so moved, so deeply connected to his message, that they donated over $1 million to his nonprofit. That's more than $55,000 for every minute he spoke. That man's name is Brian Stevenson. And the question that hangs in the air is, how? How did he do that? In a world overflowing with noise, where millions of presentations are given every single day, most of them boring, forgettable, and instantly dismissed, what is the secret to an idea that not only gets heard, but gets felt, an idea that moves people to action, changes their perspective, and maybe even changes the world? This is the question that drove communications expert Carmine Gallo on a fascinating journey. He became a detective, analyzing over 500 of the greatest talks from TED, the global phenomenon that has gathered over 1 billion online views. He interviewed the speakers, from neuroscientists to rock stars, and cross-referenced their techniques with the latest breakthroughs in psychology and brain science. And what he discovered was a hidden pattern. A set of 9 universal secrets shared by the world's most captivating communicators. The book he wrote, Talk Like TED, became an international bestseller because it's not just a book about public speaking. It's a blueprint for influence. It's a guide to making your ideas unforgettable. Today, we're going to unpack that blueprint. By the time we're done, you will have a clear understanding of those 9 secrets. You'll know why passion is literally contagious, why stories can sync your brain with your audiences, and why the most powerful presentations often feel less like a speech and more like a conversation. This isn't about becoming a perfect, polished robot on a stage. It's about finding what is most authentic and powerful within you, and learning how to share it with the world. So, get comfortable. Because we're about to learn how to talk like TED. Book summary. Have you ever had an idea that you were truly excited about? Something you knew, deep down, could make a difference, but when you tried to explain it to someone, their eyes just glazed over? You felt the energy drain from the room, and your brilliant idea fizzled out before it ever had a chance. If you've ever felt that frustration, you're not alone. The truth is, the world is full of incredible ideas trapped inside people who don't know how to share them. Carmine Gallo tells us that ideas are the currency of the 21st century. But an idea is worthless if it stays in your head. Its value comes from your ability to inspire others with it. And the great speakers, the ones who deliver those legendary TED Talks, have mastered this art. They don't just present information, they create an experience. Gallo found that every single one of these unforgettable talks is built on 3 foundational pillars. They are emotional, they are novel, and they are memorable. Within these 3 pillars lie the 9 secrets of great communication. And the journey begins not with what you say, or how you say it, but with a feeling that comes from deep within. The first pillar, be emotional. Great presentations don't just reach our heads, they touch our hearts. Logic and data can make an argument, but emotion is what makes an argument move. The first secret, and perhaps the most important of all, is to unleash the master within. What does that mean? It means you have to find your passion. Think about Amy Mullins. She was born with a medical condition that required both of her legs to be amputated below the knee before her first birthday. Society gave her a label, disabled, but Amy refused it. Instead, she saw her prosthetic legs not as a deficiency, but as a superpower. She has 12 pairs of them, each designed for a different purpose. She used her running legs to break world records in the Paralympics. She uses other legs to change her height, from 5 feet 8 inches to 6 feet 1 inch, depending on the occasion. When Amy stood on the TED stage, she wasn't passionate about prosthetics. She was passionate about unleashing human potential. She argued that her prosthetic limbs weren't about replacing a loss, but about unlocking possibilities. Her passion was so raw, so authentic, that the audience was mesmerized. Why? Because science shows that passion is literally contagious. You cannot inspire others unless you are inspired yourself. Gallo pushes us to ask a deeper question than what are you passionate about? He asks, what makes your heart sing? When he coached the CEO of a strawberry growers association, he asked that question. The man's first answers were predictable. I promote California strawberries. But when asked what made his heart sing, his voice changed. He said, the American dream. He told a story of his immigrant parents working in the fields, saving enough to buy 1 acre of land, and building a life from it. That, the story of hope and opportunity, was his true passion. The strawberries were just the product. Your passion isn't just a hobby. It's something core to your identity, something so meaningful that it defines who you are. And when you speak from that place, your audience feels it. They can't help but be drawn in. This isn't just a nice idea, it's backed by science. Neuroscientists have discovered that when you speak with genuine enthusiasm, you trigger a mood contagion in your listeners. The positive emotions you express, excitement, joy, conviction, literally transfer to them, making them more open and receptive to your message. So, before you ever write a single slide, you have to find your unique, meaningful connection to your topic. What's the story behind the data? What's the mission behind the product? What makes your heart sing? Find that, and you've found the engine for your entire presentation. But passion alone isn't enough. You need a vehicle to deliver that passion. And that brings us to the second secret: master the art of storytelling. Remember Brian Stevenson, the lawyer who received the longest standing ovation in TED history? Gallo did a fascinating analysis of his talk. He broke it down using Aristotle's ancient principles of persuasion: ethos, credibility; logos, logic and data; and pathos, emotion. What he found was stunning. 65% of Stevenson's talk, nearly 2/3 of it, was pure pathos. It was storytelling. He only spent 25% on data and just 10% on establishing his credibility. And yet, his talk was voted one of the most persuasive on TED.com. This reveals a profound truth: you cannot persuade with logic alone. Stories are what connect us. As researcher Brené Brown famously said, stories are just data with a soul. And here's where it gets really interesting. Scientists at Princeton University, using fMRI machines to scan people's brains, made a groundbreaking discovery. When one person tells a story and another person listens, their brains literally sync up. Hassan, the lead researcher, calls it brain-to-brain coupling. The same parts of the speaker's brain that light up with emotion also light up in the listener's brain. By telling a story, you can actually plant ideas, thoughts, and emotions directly into your audience's minds. It's the closest thing we have to a mind meld. So, how do you do it? Gallo identifies 3 simple, effective types of stories that the best speakers use. 1. Personal stories. These relate directly to you and your journey. Think of Steve Jobs' famous Stanford commencement speech, which is just 3 personal stories about connecting the dots: love and loss, and death. When you share a personal struggle or a moment of insight, you become vulnerable and real, breaking down the wall between you and your audience. 2. Stories about other people. These create empathy by letting the audience see the world through someone else's eyes. Sir Ken Robinson did this brilliantly in his talk, the most popular TED Talk of all time. He didn't just talk about how schools kill creativity, he told the story of Gillian Lynn. As a child in the 1930s, Her school thought she had a learning disorder because she couldn't sit still. A wise doctor saw her fidgeting to the music from her radio and told her mother, "Jillian isn't sick, she's a dancer." She went on to become the choreographer for world-famous musicals like Cats and Phantom of the Opera. That one story made his abstract point tangible and unforgettable. 3. Stories about brands or products. These showcase success or failure in a way that teaches a lesson. Marketing guru Seth Godin is a master of this. To explain how to make ideas spread, he told the story of sliced bread. For the first 15 years after it was invented, no one bought it. It was a complete failure until the brand Wonder Bread figured out how to spread the idea of sliced bread. The lesson? A great invention is useless if you can't tell a great story about it. So you've found your passion, and you've woven it into a compelling story. Now, how do you deliver it in a way that feels real and connects with people? This leads to the third secret of the emotional pillar: have a conversation. The best TED Talks don't feel like a formal speech. They feel like an intimate, one-on-one conversation, even with 1,000 people in the room. This doesn't happen by accident. It happens through relentless practice. Take Amanda Palmer, the indie musician who gave one of the most talked-about presentations at TED 2013. You'd think a performer would find it easy. But she spent 4 months preparing. She wrote, rewrote, timed, and tweaked her 12-minute talk over and over. She crowdsourced ideas from her blog fans. She got brutal feedback from her old high school theater director. She practiced in front of friends, students, and even a stranger at a bar. It took her hundreds of hours of work to make it look effortless. Authenticity, it turns out, doesn't come naturally on a stage. It has to be rehearsed. You practice so much that you internalize the content. You're not thinking about what slide is next or what line you have to remember. You're free to just connect with your audience. This conversational style is reflected in your body language and your voice. The best speakers don't stand stiffly behind a podium. They use open gestures, make eye contact, and move with purpose. Their vocal delivery is dynamic. They vary their rate, volume, and pitch, and they use pauses for dramatic effect. Brian Stevenson, for example, speaks at about 190 words per minute, the natural pace of a comfortable conversation. There's a myth that 93% of communication is nonverbal. The UCLA professor who did that original study in the 1960s says his work was taken completely out of context. However, modern research with law enforcement interrogators shows that body language is incredibly important. In one study, agents who could only see a suspect's body language with no audio were better at detecting lies than agents who could only hear the audio. Why? Because when your words and your body are out of sync, your audience feels it. They lose trust. Harvard psychologist Amy Cuddy's research shows something even more powerful. Your body language doesn't just shape how others see you, it shapes how you see yourself. She found that standing in a power pose, like Wonder Woman, with your hands on your hips and your chin up, for just 2 minutes can increase testosterone, the dominance hormone, and decrease cortisol, the stress hormone. Her famous advice isn't fake it till you make it, it's fake it till you become it. Before you speak, find a private space, stand tall, and take up space. It will chemically change your brain to feel more confident and present. So the first pillar of a great talk is to connect emotionally. You do it by finding your passion, crafting a powerful story, and practicing until your delivery is as natural as a conversation. You touch the heart first. But once you have their heart, you have to win their mind. The second pillar: be novel. The human brain is a survival machine, and it's hardwired with a powerful filtering system. It has to be. We are bombarded with information every second. What does it choose to pay attention to? Novelty. The brain cannot ignore something that is new, unusual, or unexpected. It's a survival instinct. Our ancestors had to notice the rustle in the bushes that was different from the usual sound of the wind. That's why the second pillar of a great talk is to be novel. And the fourth secret is to teach me something new. Your audience is there to learn. They are giving you their most valuable asset, their attention, and they expect a return on that investment. You have to give them new information, or package old information in a completely new way. Robert Ballard, the explorer who discovered the wreck of the Titanic, is a master of this. When he spoke at TED, he didn't just show pictures of his famous discovery. He reframed our entire understanding of the planet. He told the audience that 50% of the United States lies beneath the sea. That NASA's budget for 1 year could fund ocean exploration for 1,600 years. He gave them a completely new lens through which to see the world. When we learn something new, our brain rewards us with a hit of dopamine, the same chemical associated with pleasure and reward. Learning, literally, feels good. Drive. Martha Burns calls dopamine the save button in the brain. When it's present during an experience, we remember it. When it's absent, nothing sticks. Your job as a speaker is to push that save button over and over. One of the most effective ways to do this is to create a single, memorable, and Twitter-friendly headline for your talk. Your headline is the one big idea you want your audience to take away. It should be concise enough to fit in 140 characters. Why? Because it forces you to clarify your message, and it gives your audience a simple hook to remember. Gallo analyzed all of the talks on TED.com and found that not a single title was over 140 characters. Sir Ken Robinson's headline, "Schools Kill Creativity." Susan Cain's, "The Power of Introverts." Simon Sinek's, "How Great Leaders Inspire Action." Each one makes a novel promise to teach you something surprising. But just teaching something new isn't always enough to make it stick. You have to create a moment so powerful, so memorable, that it becomes impossible to forget. This is the fifth secret: deliver jaw-dropping moments. A jaw-dropping moment is an emotionally charged event that sears your message into the memory of your audience. Think of Bill Gates. In his 2009 TED Talk on eradicating malaria, he was explaining how the disease is spread by mosquitoes. Then, he paused. He reached down, picked up a glass jar, and said, "I brought some here. I'll let them roam around. There is no reason only poor people should be infected." And he opened the jar. The audience gasped, then laughed nervously. After a moment, he assured them the mosquitoes were malaria-free. But in that one shocking, unforgettable moment, he made the abstract threat of malaria feel real and personal. That one moment went viral, getting more attention than the rest of his talk combined. Neuroscientists call this a flashbulb memory. When you experience a strong emotion, surprise, shock, joy, fear, your brain's amygdala releases a flood of dopamine that essentially puts a chemical post-it note on the memory that says, "Remember this." It's why you remember exactly where you were on September 11th, but you can't remember what you had for breakfast last Tuesday. Ordinary events are forgettable. Emotionally charged events are permanent. Steve Jobs was the undisputed king of the jaw-dropping moment. When he introduced the first iPod in 2001, he didn't just list its features. He created a dramatic reveal. He talked about this amazing little device, then said, "And it goes right in my pocket." Then he reached into the tiny coin pocket of his jeans and pulled it out. In that one gesture, he demonstrated the product's key benefit: 1,000 songs in your pocket, in a way no spec sheet ever could. You don't need to release insects or be Steve Jobs to create a jaw-dropping moment. It can be a shocking statistic, a powerful photograph, a surprising demonstration, or a deeply personal story that reveals a vulnerability no one expected. Drive. Jill Bolt Taylor, the neuroscientist who had a stroke, brought a real human brain on stage, spinal cord and all. The audience squirmed, but they were riveted. They would never forget what they saw, or what she taught them. Now, a presentation that is all shock and awe can be exhausting. You need to balance the intensity with moments of levity. This brings us to the sixth secret: lighten up. The brain loves humor. Humor lowers our defenses, making us more receptive to a message. It also makes the speaker more likable, and we are far more willing to be persuaded by people we like. But this does not mean you should tell jokes. Unless you're a professional comedian, telling a canned joke is one of the riskiest things you can do in a presentation. It often feels inauthentic and, if it falls flat, the silence can be crushing. The most popular TED speakers never tell jokes. Instead, they use 5 other, much safer and more effective forms of humor. 1. Anecdotes and personal stories. Sir Ken Robinson, in his famous talk, got huge laughs by sharing funny observations about his family, like moving his teenage son away from his love of his life, a girl he'd known for a month. Self-deprecating humor is especially powerful because it shows you don't take yourself too seriously. 2. Analogies and metaphors. Comparing a complex idea to something simple and familiar can be both illuminating and funny. U2's Bono, when asked to condense 25 years of anti-poverty campaigning into 10 minutes, quipped, "That's an Englishman asking an Irishman to be succinct." 3. Quotes. Let someone else be the comedian. Quoting a funny observation from a famous person, or even a clever remark from your own child, can provide a moment of levity without you having to be the one to land the joke. 4. Videos. A short, funny video clip that illustrates your point can be a fantastic way to break up your presentation and re-energize the audience. The pressure is off you and on the video. 5. Photos. A surprising or absurd photograph can do the work of 1,000 words. Economist Juan Enriquez, when explaining the precarious state of the U.S. financial system, showed a picture of people in a swimming pool with their radio plugged into an electrical socket dangling just over the water's edge. No explanation was needed. The image was funny and a little terrifying. So, the second pillar is to be novel. You grab your audience's attention by teaching them something new, you make it unforgettable with a jaw-dropping moment, and you keep them engaged and receptive with a healthy dose of humor. You've won their hearts and their minds. But how do you make sure your idea sticks with them long after they've left the room? The third pillar, be memorable. You can have the most passionate delivery and the most novel ideas, but if your audience can't recall what you said a week later, you've failed. The final pillar of a great talk is to structure it in a way that is easy for the brain to process and remember. This leads to the 7th secret: stick to the 18-minute rule. Every single TED Talk is strictly limited to 18 minutes. Why that specific number? TED curator Chris Anderson says it's long enough to be serious and short enough to hold people's attention, but there's a deeper science at play. Researchers call it cognitive backlog. Your brain is like a muscle, and listening is hard work. It consumes energy, glucose, to be exact. The longer you ask an audience to listen, the more their mental energy depletes. Their brains get tired. They start to zone out, check their phones, and think about what's for lunch. An 18-minute presentation respects the limits of the human attention span. It's concise enough to prevent cognitive overload, but long enough to make a powerful argument. Creativity thrives under constraints. Forcing yourself to condense your message into 18 minutes makes you ruthless about what's truly important. It forces you to get to the core of your idea. As Leonardo da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So how do you fit a big idea into a small time frame? The key is another powerful secret of the brain, the rule of 3. The human mind loves patterns, and the most powerful number in communication is 3. We can easily remember 3 things. Add a 4th or a 5th, and our recall drops off dramatically. This rule is everywhere. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Stop, look, and listen. The best speakers structure their entire presentation around the rule of 3. They create a headline, support it with 3 key messages, and then use stories and examples to flesh out each of those 3 points. Steve Jobs' Stanford speech is a perfect example. One headline, "Do What You Love," supported by 3 stories about connecting the dots, love and loss, and death. This structure acts like a mental roadmap for your audience, making your message easy to follow and easy to remember. Now, Just because your presentation is well structured doesn't mean it has to be boring. The eighth secret is to paint a mental picture with multisensory experiences. The brain doesn't pay attention to boring things. And one of the surest ways to avoid being boring is to engage more than one of the senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. Vision is by far the most dominant sense. We are incredible at remembering pictures. This is known as the picture superiority effect. If you hear a piece of information, you'll remember about 10% of it 3 days later. But if you add a picture, your recall soars to 65%. This is why death by PowerPoint is such a common phenomenon. The average PowerPoint slide has 40 words on it. The audience is trying to read your dense slide while also listening to you speak, and the brain simply can't do both. It's a myth that we can effectively multitask when it comes to paying attention. Great speakers use slides completely differently. They use them to complement their words, not to duplicate them. Their slides are almost entirely visual. A single, powerful photograph. A simple, elegant chart. 1 or 2 words in a giant font. Al Gore's presentation in An Inconvenient Truth was so powerful not because of his words alone, but because he used stunning before and after photos of melting glaciers and animated graphics to make the abstract concept of climate change feel terrifyingly real. You can also paint pictures with your words. Using vivid, descriptive language and powerful metaphors can activate the visual cortex of your audience's brains, making them see what you're describing. When Lisa Christine described her journey down an illegal mine shaft in Ghana, she spoke of the flickering, cheap flashlight, the brush of sweaty bodies passing in the darkness, and the cacophony of men coughing. She made you feel like you were there with her, in that terrifying, claustrophobic space. We've covered 8 secrets. We've talked about passion, stories, delivery, novelty, humor, structure, and visuals. But there is one final secret that underpins them all. It's the one that separates a good speaker from a truly great one. It's the 9th secret: stay in your lane. What does this mean? It means be yourself. Be authentic, open, and transparent. In a world of polished corporate speakers and carefully managed public images, your audience craves what is real. They can spot a phony a mile away. You can learn from Steve Jobs' stage presence or Bono's storytelling, but you can't be Steve Jobs or Bono. When Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg was preparing for her famous TED Talk on women in leadership, she was hesitant to share a personal story about her daughter clinging to her leg, begging her not to go on her business trip. But she shared it. In that moment of vulnerability, she became more than just a powerful executive. She became a relatable human being struggling with the same challenges as her audience. Her authenticity is what made her message resonate so deeply. Many of the world's greatest communicators were once terrified of public speaking. Warren Buffett was so scared that he would choose his college classes to avoid having to speak in front of people. Richard Branson says he used to get physically sick before giving a speech. They didn't become great by being fearless. They became great by learning to be themselves, to speak from the heart, and to believe in the message they were sharing. Your goal isn't to deliver a presentation. Your goal is to share a piece of who you are and what you believe. It's to have a conversation that moves, inspires, and encourages people to dream bigger. Don't try to be in someone else's lane. Find your own. Own it. And drive in it with all the passion and authenticity you have. That is the final, and most powerful, secret of all. Commentary. So, there you have it. The 9 secrets to talking like TAT. Emotional, novel, and memorable. When you step back and look at them all together, a simple but profound truth emerges. Great public speaking is not about performance. It's about connection. It's about having the courage to unleash your passion and share what truly makes your heart sing. It's about honoring the ancient human tradition of storytelling to build a bridge between your mind and the minds of your audience. It's about practicing your craft with such dedication that your delivery becomes an authentic, effortless conversation. It's about respecting your audience's intelligence enough to teach them something new and surprising. It's about being brave enough to create a jaw-dropping moment that they will never forget, and humble enough to use humor to lighten the load. And finally, it's about having the wisdom to structure your ideas with the simple clarity of the 18-minute rule and the rule of 3. It's about painting a picture so vivid that it engages all their senses. And, above all, it's about having the integrity to stay in your lane and be unapologetically, authentically yourself. These principles aren't just for a world-famous stage. They are for you. Right now. They are for that class presentation you have next week. For that job interview you're nervous about. For the moment you need to convince your team, your boss, or your family to believe in your idea. In our modern world, the ability to communicate your ideas persuasively is not a soft skill, it's the fundamental skill. It is the single greatest determinant of your influence, and, ultimately, your success. So, how can you start today? Don't try to master all 9 secrets at once. Just start with one. 1. Find your passion. Ask yourself that powerful question: what makes my heart sing? What is the one topic you could talk about for hours? Start there. 2. Craft one story. Think of a single personal experience, a failure, a triumph, a moment of insight that relates to that passion. 3. Share it. The next time you're in a meeting or even just a conversation with a friend, don't just state the facts. Tell your story. See what happens. The journey to becoming a great communicator is just that, a journey. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about having something to say, and caring enough to say it well. Because you have ideas inside of you that the world needs to hear. Don't let them stay silent. Learn to share them, and you just might change the world. That was a summary of Talk Like TED by Carmine Gallo. We've walked through the key secrets today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is found when you take the journey yourself. The true magic happens when you read the book and a particular story or a simple phrase connects with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time and attention. If anything we've talked about today has lit a spark in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning techniques, it's an experience that can genuinely change how you see yourself as a communicator and the impact you can have on the world. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you a new perspective, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.